Today we're going to draw this autumn moonlight scene. It's actually a portrait of an old hollow tree. Yes, somebody lives in it too. All right, what do you say we get our chalks and pencils going and see what we can do in creating a background of mood first. And I'd use a piece of gray chalk just to lightly sketch a circle for the moon. Then a light line, say, across the page about a quarter to a third of the way up. Curved line here, the hill on which we'll set the tree. Now, if you're going to tone the sky around the moon, I would suggest that you put your chalk on its side like that. If you're using only a pencil, place the pencil on its side and just go round and round it. You'll find that, of course, with the chalk you cover a lot more area more quickly. Then you can make your strokes radiate out from the center. We'll smooth that out in a moment and blend it so that it has more of that sort of pale moon, misty effect that you often find on a frosty autumn evening. Broad strokes filling in the sky to a medium gray tone. Now, in order to smooth it out, use a piece of bunched up cleansing tissue when you're working in a large area like this, and just go around that circle several times. Continue. Yes, you can reverse it, go the other direction, until you've worked clear across the page. Now, you can also add another interesting effect by making strokes radiate out, moonbeams, cutting across those rings around the moon. Now, if you want to straighten up the edges of the circle, use a piece of kneaded eraser like this and just pick out the little touches. Of course, that's something you can always do later. You can correct the shape of your moon. As a matter of fact, you'll find that you can even trace around a circular object in order to make a good round circle, but it doesn't have to be perfectly round in order to make a good picture. Then down here along the horizon line, let's just suggest shrubbery, sort of misty back there in the distance. Not too prominent. And here, let's put a little cabin in the woods, or in the clearing, let's say. Triangular-shaped roof, and then a sort of a lean-to section, the kind of cottage that the old coon hunter lives in. Might be down in the piney woods, it might be in the remote area of almost any state in the country. Now, for shading, remember your moonlight is coming from back there, so you'd shade the back edge of this building like this. Put in some strokes on the roof, a little chimney, a few windows, and then a few touches such as small trees way back here, very lightly, sort of a wispy lacework of rhythmic strokes to merely suggest the trunks of trees in a row back there. Coming closer to the foreground, we might put one in here and a still larger one there beside the cottage. You can put in foliage by putting a piece of chalk on its side like that and just sort of making an irregular umbrella-like cluster of foliage at the tops of these branches. Now, for the closer trees, you might want to switch to a darker chalk or black to make those trees come forward a little more. But don't hesitate to soften them, because you want to keep them back in the distance. That softening we call aerial perspective. In other words, they're not as sharp and clear back in the distance as they'd be found up close in the foreground. Then here in the foreground, let's put some tone on this hill. And with the light coming from that direction, think of this hill as a ball-like form. So shading would start at the lower edge and blend up into the gray, converging toward that focal point of the moon. Then a touch of blending to fuse those tones together. Later, after we put in our portrait of the tree, we may do a little more. But I'd suggest that you block in an old rail fence here to start giving it the authentic look of a country scene. When I say build a tree, I want you to think of each segment as being a cylinder form that tapers. Now we're going to start the trunk of the tree slanting like this. Think of the roots as being cone-shaped forms, digging here into the earth to support that giant tree. Carry it on up a little distance. Now we're going to make the cylinder form change direction, and then change direction again. Remember that the trunk and branches of trees are not solid, not parallel cylinders, but they do taper, smaller as they go up. Let's attach another cylinder form here, make it bend interestingly, and curve up. Let's put one in here that comes from the other side of the tree, bends down and up, so that we give this tree some character. Might do another one over here attached to the front of the tree. So this branch comes out of the front, that goes out the back, this one comes out the front. Now let's put in another one here, growing out of the front side, so that we make this cylinder form run up here at an angle, curve. Now you can make your branches go whatever way you wish, but be sure that you get character and ruggedness in your drawing of the tree. Then here's the secret of giving it the look of third dimension. Taking a piece of black chalk on its side, remembering your light's coming from back over there, you shade down the side opposite from the light. Notice that it blends off toward the center of the tree. Now this branch would be hidden in shadow, so you could make this branch completely solid. This one would get shaded on the left, and because the moon is above this one, you'd shade this one on the underside, so that light falls on the upper surface of that branch. Then suggest some wiggly branches coming out from there, probably several more. That's something you can do inventing your own tree. You study old apple trees or sycamore trees, live oaks, certain types of willow, and you'll find that they have some very interesting character to them. And we're going to put a place here where somebody lives in this tree. Now for some texture and shading, so that we round out the big tree and give it the look of that irregular bark effect. Texture is something you can always add later, and you can really go to town on working texture. And the best thing to do is study the bark of trees, just to make sure that you get realistic looking texture. Then we might have a branch come down here and across the moon, and perched right on that branch, old Mr. Owl, and somebody else lives right inside here too. Well, that's about all we have time for on our portrait of the tree by moonlight in the autumn. And I'd like you to take another look at something that I know will be of interest to everyone.